All right, let's look at another example of solving using a trig ratio. Here I have a right triangle, and the angle of reference is 49 degrees. And the instructions just says capital PQ. What does that mean? It means what's the distance between P to Q. So I look at the picture, P to Q. Oh, okay, so they're asking for the length of this side. So I'm just going to label that. That's going to help me to visualize. Now what? Well, I want to identify which sides are they asking me to work with. This 8 is the longest side, so it's the hypotenuse. I'm going to mark that down, hypotenuse. And asking for is connected. It's next to that 49-degree angle. So this is the adjacent side. I'm going to mark that down. So now I can focus on the fact that I have the hypotenuse and I need the adjacent. Hypotenuse and adjacent. Which uses those two sides together? Is it tangent, sine, or cosine? I look in my notes, my definitions, and I see that cosine of an angle is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. That's the trig function we're going to use then, and we can disregard all the rest. So once we identify which trig function we're going to use, we go ahead and write it down somewhere. Cosine of the angle, what angle? The reference angle, 49 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and put that in place of the angle symbol, equals, the definition is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So I look at my picture. The adjacent side is the one we don't know, and the hypotenuse is given as 8. So we've plugged in the information from the picture into the ratio. Now we're going to use some algebra to get x all by itself. In order to get x by itself, and it has an 8 dividing, so we're going to do the opposite, which is to multiply by 8. That allows us to cancel. And we can only do it, though, if we do it to the other side, because what you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other. So I'm going to multiply by 8. Let's bring that down and clear out some space. What's the result? The 8's are gone, so I just have the x by itself. Yes, that's our goal. But on the other side, we have all of this, 8 times the cosine of 49. So that is where your trig calculator comes in. I'm going to put 49, and then I hit the cosine button. 49 cosine, and it tells me it's this long decimal. But I know I have to multiply it with 8 anyway, so I could just go ahead and multiply by 8 right now. 8, and I get 5.24 on, but my instructions are to round to the nearest tenth column. This is the hundredth column, so this is not 5 or higher, so I'm not going to round this up. It's going to stay 5.2. That is rounding it to the nearest tenth. So my answer is 5.2 for my unknown. Let's look at the picture before I turn that in. Look at the picture. Think about what they were asking. They were asking for the length of P to Q, and we just found it to be 5.2. Well, if this is 8 units, I could see how this could be 5.2. Now, that's not foolproof. It's not a foolproof check, but it does let you know you're in the right area. You probably got it right. It's just a quick way to see, does your answer makes sense.